This was the early 70s, right? So there were all these young people, much like I had been uh, just a couple of years before that, who were searching for something, and they were taking off and they were traveling, from America and Europe, and they were traveling around the world and having all these experiences and taking drugs and whatever, right? But so many of them ended up in Zurich
Mm.
because they'd heard about this Jung Institute, and
Mm.
so they enrolled there, a number of them, and I have a chapter in the biography called a room, let's say, Spring House, a room full of puers, a
Yeah,
Renaissance magic in a room full of
yeah.
puers,
You
and
know, you know what strikes me about it is as I was reading that, and it was interesting, all those, the way they were working together. But it reminded me of what was happening in the wider world, what was happening there. Like
yeah,
you had those daring puers starting spring, which is probably a puer kind of word anyway, I suppose.
yeah, I
But
think so.
it's like and there was an old guard maybe in Zurich, and or maybe a little bit of a conservative influence, or that since Jung had died, and traditional influence maybe, and then there was kind of these daring young people, which is kind of what was happening in the US and everywhere around the world at this time in a way, wasn't
Absolutely, it was a zeitgeist. It was happening everywhere, and James, in his own way, was very much a part of that with these young people who came over there, and yeah, and his whole idea about Senex and Puer really emerged from the late 1960s, and
it? Yeah,
and that and what he wrote about in terms of you couldn't have one without the other, really. I mean, you could be emphasize the qualities of one more than the other, but really they were inseparable in terms of our makeup. We all have that in us, and we need to, in order to. He had to have Senex qualities, Saturnian discipline,
yeah.
to do all those footnotes for his books and all the scholarship he did. But at the same time, he always considered himself aware. He was youthful. He was ready for the next challenge, and really is very spirited in that way. I mean, all the way to the end, he was that way. So that's
He
a
was
puer.
an 80-year-old puer.
He was,
Uh,
and I'm that way too. I'm 75 now, and still feel very youthful in many ways.